Hi everyone, Vibrous here. Just wanted to do a quick tutorial on my new Max for Live device, Corporis Concativus version 2.0. And just right off the bat, if you get this little visual glitch down here from Max for Live, it sometimes happens, it sometimes doesn't. Just group it, ungroup it, and it's fixed. So don't freak out if you see that. Hopefully it doesn't happen. So this is a concatenative based granular synthesizer, Max for Live instrument. And what it basically does is takes a sample, you load it, it analyzes it, and chops it up into all these little grains. So each one of these little circles here are grains, like granular synthesis. And it distributes it on this XY graph here. So this is built off of the MUBU CataRT tutorial patches. So I took a bunch of them and kind of spliced them all together, the ones I thought were the parts of the ones I really liked, and then added my own take and some extra things that I thought would be cool to implement. Just in this drop file folder section here, you can click on it and it'll bust up, the file opener or folder opener. I just like to drag things, and it should work where if you add an additional file, it will then, it's the same file, it will then analyze that additionally. So reanalyze everything with both, make sure I got both of them. Let me just clear it. Yeah, there we go. It's working now. It takes some time for longer files, and sometimes it gets kind of confused. Sometimes it doesn't just analyze folders. Do your best. But if you have a big folder with a lot of samples like this one, like the Glitch with Friends, Volume 3, big ups glitch.cool, it should load everything. Let's see if this works. Yeah, so all those little lines are each one of the samples. I honestly don't know if it does every single one of them, but do your best. And then you can see it distributed on the XY graph. Just right here, and so this refresh button is sometimes like clears some visual glitches, sometimes not. But right here, there's an open big XY. This is what a lot of people are asking for. And then you can see a more in-depth distribution of the grains. You can also change how the graph looks. So right now we're at frequency and frequency, which actually should look like that, right? They're both same properties, so everything is going upwards by frequency, lower, higher. And I'll just start doing some sound now too. In order to make sound on this, there's no note entering or anything. You have to click in the graph. And so you can click down here, you can click here, also watch the volume. And then also there's some XY knobs right here that you can modulate, and we'll get into that a little later. So if you want to change something like periodicity on the x-axis, there you go. So now it's frequency going up and then periodicity going laterally. I'm just gonna slap a limiter on here just for volume purposes. With that being said, there's also different play types. So right now it's on bow, and the best way to think about bow is it's playing like a bow. Like, I don't know if you can see my mouse. Maybe I can draw it this way. Let's see. So bow would look something like this. Whereas fence is looking more something like this. So it's shorter. think the best way of just figuring out what they sound like is honestly to just play with it. So, right, if we move around like with bow, let me turn the volume back up here. Let's clear all modulation, automation. Versus fence. Less in volume, and it's more like prickly, I would say, whereas bow, actually in the patch, it has a play thing on, so it will repeat itself multiple times and kind of sounds a lot louder. So just watch volume with bow. There's also beat mode, which just repeats the whatever grain you choose. And we'll get into a bit more of that in a little bit. I'll break that down because that's probably one of my favorite parts. Right, so we'll just go right to the grain parameters. Let's go to the XY first. So talked about wanting to modulate this, right, and automate this. You can do it with Max for Live devices like the LFO tool, but if you want to draw it in, you have to group and macro it. Otherwise, that's why it says rack and macro for automation. There's some glitch where if you don't do that, it'll cancel each other out, and then it's not as fun, in my opinion. So what that means is, let me just turn the grid off, actually. If we put this in a new lane, put this in a new lane, I'm just gonna close this for a second. We have the X, draw this, and the Y. And so we play here. Look, and there's no MIDI clip, but we'll get to that a little later. So you can see that it's just scanning through, and when you stop, it stops. You can also change the fence. So this allows you to really get nitty gritty. If you find a certain automation lane that you like, then you can just loop it. So if we just take this, right. You can also do this with beat mode. Beat mode, unfortunately, I didn't figure out a way to sync it with the start and stop, so it's just always going, but if you want to try to figure that out, please, by all means, do it. I'd love to implement that. It didn't quite work when I tried to. Yeah, it just repeats it. I'm going to turn it off of beat mode for the moment. It's a little annoying. So let's just go to the grain parameters. So this is the size. This is how big the grain is. So if let's just use fence right now. We turn that up. It's playing a longer grain for grain size for every grain you hit, basically. You can also vary the size, so some might be short, some might be longer, which is a lot of fun. So they're not all overlapping. Some are little, will overlap, some will kind of linger on for a while. It's also fun with bow because it gets loud. There's also spray, which kind of, I like showing this in beat mode actually. So, right. It's choosing different parts of the buffer to start. So cool for making like some interesting syncopation or putting variability on it. And those two combined are pretty interesting as well. Right. There is also a reverse. So and as well as some attack and release. I like this, makes it percussive. And then here's the rate also with beat. And notice you can have a low play rate on beat and a small size. And increase the size. So can almost get into like looping, sampling territory, which I think is cool. You can really hear that reverse now. So maybe let's just keep on this. To show you the pitch, you can transpose it by a semitone up to 48. There's also a fine pitch mode. I thought that was cool because sometimes you want to get those nice like pitch sweeps. And as you can hear, when it goes to a lower pitch, it'll finish playing the buffer, similar to like old school samplers. Like it'll take as long as it needs to play the lower pitch. And so I don't know, I think that's really cool as well. There's also this pitch spray. It's kind of like the vary size as well, but in pitch terms, it's varying what the pitch playback is. Yeah. Let me just stop this for a second. And then this also can receive MIDI and pitch, which I think is a lot of fun. So let me just make a MIDI clip here. Also, sometimes when you use the playhead with automation, it'll do that too, which is kind of fun. Let's just clear the automation. Yeah, now it shouldn't do it. And let's insert a MIDI clip. Let's go back to the grid. And just do this for now. Actually, I had this set up. Let's try this instead. So if we have it on beat, and we hit receive pitch. And what's really cool is you can play with this as well. So and even though it's receiving pitch, you can also play with the pitch parameters as well. So as you can see, it's really, there's so much to play around with there. It also receives velocity. So we can receive pitch. But let's play this other clip. So you can kind of add your own like syncopation and volume automation with it. You can also just take the pitch off and get really rhythmic with it. Maybe add the pitch spray in. You got the spray. So that's just this one bird grain. I guess this is a bird, totally. There's a lot of birds over here. But what's cool is you can also automate this too. So say we want to automate the X in this. And the Y. And receive a pitch. Yeah, pretty powerful. There's so many other techniques. I'll just show you a few quick ones. Just exit out. Let me clear this corpus. I'm going to load this bass one. This thing is so much fun for making like tonal basses. So repeating the grain size. Just get this going. Put drum bus on there. Oops. And let's just load that back up. Oh, that was drum rack. Huh. Drum bus. There you go. And I think it's just too low now. Yeah, so let's keep that off. But so yeah, as you can see, super powerful. All these things are also automatable. The last thing I just want to show, just take this off of this, is using it for specifically percussion and hats. So I love to just take a bunch of these, load them in, this on beat. This is where you can get really subtle. You can also, I don't think I said this before, you can change it to a sync. So it syncs to the BPM. Again, it doesn't start and stop with Ableton. As you stop, it keeps playing. But this will be synced to the BPM. So if you really want to use this in BPM of the project, just record it and just nudge the audio file. It's also cool to move this, so you can have these little like glitchy fills. Anyways, I think you all get the idea. It's probably gone on way longer than it should, but this thing is just so much fun. And again, this is just adding a few things after, add effects, whatever you want. Yeah, I'm really curious to see what people do with this. Yeah, and please let me know if you have any questions. There's a bunch of bugs in it still, so yeah, kind of use at your own risk. I wouldn't use this for like a really, I don't know, important project file. I would just use this for sound design, making mud pies. But yeah, if you have any feedback or any questions, please let me know. And thanks.